Hey guys, Kevin on for Fargo, Season 2, Episode 6, Rhinoceros, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode, obviously. These past two episodes have been awesome. They really have. I mean, they've really been delivering. I mean, the whole show's been awesome, but these past two episodes especially have been awesome, and this episode definitely looked like it was me something great, especially with the cliffhangers last week. And of course, this was a great episode. I mean, are you surprised? Obviously, it was an amazing episode. There were a lot of shocking things happen in this episode. I mean, this is definitely a very crazy episode. A lot happened in it. There's a lot to talk about, obviously, so let's just jump right into it. And we have 4 episodes left, unfortunately. I mean, we have 4 episodes left. All these great shows are ending. The Leftovers has 3 episodes left. This has 4 episodes left. I mean, it's getting down to it, unfortunately. But let's just get into this episode. So, of course, we know at the end of last week's episode that Ed and Peggy were cornered by the FBI, and we get right into it. Like, there's no montage of everyone's days. There's no like cast list. It gets right into it. We see right away that Ed and Peggy are getting arrested. So Peggy's not getting arrested though. Ed is getting arrested. Basically, we see Ed getting arrested, and Peggy is obviously trying to play it off like he has no reason to be arrested, and it makes sense. I mean, something I like about the scene is that what Peggy's saying is true. There's nothing that she's saying here that's not true. Everything about this is her fault, and I thought it was quite interesting the way that she, was kind of hamming it up, but what she's saying is true. I mean, she's the one to blame. Ed didn't do anything. The only reason he's done all these things is because Peggy has told him to. And he's just been a very good husband to her. That's really why. So Hank holds her back while Peggy proclaims Ed's innocence, and he says that Lou knows better than that, and it's quite an interesting scene, definitely. I mean, I thought it was interesting that Peggy just, you know, did that for Ed. I mean, I honestly thought Peggy was just gonna get off scot-free, but no, it actually seems like she genuinely is upset for what she did to Ed. I feel like she really does feel bad about it. So Lou takes Ed to the station, and Betsy is waiting. She's worried about her husband and wants help. She's really worried that they're going to come after him because obviously he's going after the criminals. He's going after, he's really starting to take action. He's starting to realize what's going on. Of course, we knew that from last week when we saw the end of last week's episode. We saw that, well, the end of episode 4, we saw that scene that was like that. And, thing with Betsy though, again, she can't help them. I mean, she's dying, and you can tell that she's just ready to help him. I feel like she wants to help him because she knows she's gonna die. And if Betsy were to go out there and die, I feel like she'd be fine with it because she knows it's coming. She knows very soon she's gonna die. She knows she's not gonna be around for that much longer, and it's really sad. But again, that's what's going on. So he asks her to take Noreen home, and we find out that Noreen has confessed. Noreen has told everything that Ed has done. So we don't know if she went with his story or not, which I like here. We don't know if she went with his story, and you can tell that Lou really has no sympathy for Ed. I mean, he really doesn't seem to feel bad for Ed, which is understandable. I mean, he was the one that told Ed and Peggy, I'm going to help you out if you just tell me the truth, and they didn't tell him. So obviously he is pretty pissed at them, and this is kind of their karma, you knew this was coming, definitely. I'm not surprised that Lou is mad at them. I mean, they didn't listen to him, so why the hell should he listen to them? So then we see Charlie is alive. Right away, Charlie's alive, which I was very happy about. I thought Charlie died, but he's not. He's actually summoned to make his one phone call. Now, Bear doesn't know where he is, or he wouldn't be sitting on the porch with Otto, obviously. But basically, Bear can be hard to understand in more ways than one. You can't really tell what Bear is saying, I have to say. He is talking about Elrond, though, the oldest Gerhardt brother, and this is a really powerful scene. I mean, we never heard of this character before, and I really like this scene here. Because, up till now, we've seen with Bear, he's had some great scenes, but most of his scenes involved him just wanting to eat meat, and I thought this was a really great scene here. He's talking about Elrond, the eldest Gerhardt brother, who was killed in the Korean War. And he wonders how Elrond would have handled the Gerhardt's current situation. He seems to think he'd do a lot better of a job than Dodd would. He thinks that Dodd really isn't handling things very well, and I do agree. I mean, Dodd clearly is going with his emotions over his, over skill. He's really not thinking things through. I mean, think of what he wanted to do. He wants to take out, whoever killed, now that he knows that, Now he knows his brother is dead. He wants to do whatever he can to go after them. So just then Dodd rolls up and Simone comes out to get Bear to accept Charlie's call. And Simone kisses Otto on the head before he goes back in. And this triggers something in Dodd. I don't know why, but just her kissing him kind of makes him start to think something. It's very interesting. He asks, he says, I get it. You don't have respect for anything. And he says, do you know what a whore's life is? And I'm just like, what does he think that she did? I mean, he doesn't know what she's doing, but Dodd can clearly tell his daughter is up to no good. So maybe she did something that we don't know about. I mean, maybe she did. However, then we get to this crazy stuff. Bear finds out that, Dodd sent Charlie out to kill Ed, and obviously he's really pissed about because one, he just didn't think it was safe for Charlie to do that, obviously, which, yeah, obviously wasn't safe for Dodd to do that to Charlie. I get that he had a lot of faith in Charlie, and he wanted Charlie to prove that he could work for him, but Bear didn't understand that, and he finds out, he tackles Dodd off the porch, starts beating the shit out of him. I mean, it was a really crazy scene. I honestly thought that Dodd was gonna die in this scene. And Simone doesn't look too sad, and honestly, I don't blame her because she's really not treated well by her father. He treats her like shit. She's really done nothing wrong, and I think it's interesting the way that Dodd. I don't think he's becoming unlikable. I don't want to say he's becoming unlikable, but I do think that Dodd is starting to take out his anger on people that he just loves. They always say you take out the anger the most on, yeah, on the ones you love, and it's understandable why Simone is turning against her father and her family because they're clearly not very nice to her. They clearly don't respect her very much, and you can definitely see that here. So before it gets to it, Hanzee shows up with a shotgun, and I love how Hanzee always is the one to like break things up or things like that. It's awesome. He points it at Bear and tells him to stop. Dodd tells him that he's getting the belts, and he offers Bear the option of getting beat with the strap or the buckle, and that was actually a pretty funny scene. I mean, just the way that Dodd is like, I'm gonna get out the belts. Bear chooses the latter. That felt like a classic scene at like some western. I don't know what it was, but it felt really cool. Floyd does stop them, luckily, before the insanity, before it spreads any further, and I thought that was really great. However, down the police station, we do see, even though she got off the Gerhardt's lawn, we see down the police station, things may be a different story, because Floyd tells Bear to take care of Charlie while she instructs Dodd to go after Ed. She knows that obviously Ed's alive, and she wants him to finally go after the butcher. And this is interesting because after all this time, Dodd's wanted peace. She's wanted to keep the peace between everyone. And now she actually wants her son to go after this man. She wants her son to go after the person that he suspects. And I think it's interesting, this shift in tone. I think she's realizing that things are just a lot more dangerous, and what she wants is just not going to happen. So she needs to have things her way, and I love that. I think really it shows the development that Floyd is getting. She really is doing an awesome job. So basically, Dodd is going after Ed. So Simone has her own message for Mike, and she's upset about Dodd. Obviously, we knew that there were going to be scenes with Mike here, and she's upset about Dodd calling her a whore, and Mike says that Mike says technically she is, and she then tells Mike that Bear and Dodd are headed to Laverne, and more importantly, she tells Mike he's going to kill Dodd for her. So this is really interesting, the fact that she said that, but I don't blame Simone, obviously. I mean, her father treats her like shit. He always thinks there's something wrong with her. He thinks that she's gone on a really bad path. He doesn't really seem like he's trying to help her. He seems like he's flat out insulting her, and I can totally understand why she wants why she wants him dead. And more importantly, basically, Mike asks if she has any last words for the guy, and she just says to kiss her grits. And now, what I love about that line there is, if you guys don't know, there was a TV show in the '70s called Alice. It was I've never seen the show, but that's a famous line from that. I love that. I think that was awesome that they did that, honestly. That was a really great line, and it went go well with the show, because obviously the show takes place in the '70s, which worked well here. So Mike hangs up the phone and he begins reciting this poem, Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll, as he and the remaining Mafia members prepare to leave, and something is definitely going to happen. I mean, this really set up things very well. You knew in this episode something bad was really going to happen and someone was not going to get out alive. You just knew it. So at the Blumquist house, Peggy makes coffee for Hank, and she mentions that she has the Life Spring seminar the next day in Sioux Falls. And this is interesting because she said before she didn't want to go to it. So now she is going to this Life Spring seminar. She refused not to. Interesting. So we also see that basically we see, basically we eventually get to that massacre. We'll get into it. But Peggy still plans to go to the seminar with her husband in jail for murder, and Hank thinks that seems like an insane idea. He doesn't think that she should go there at all, given the number of bodies have been piling up over the last few days. And we're finally hearing, finally understanding what that massacre was. That massacre is, this life spring. That massacre that Lou talked about in season one, that's this life spring. And he says that all the bodies piling up there. Hank just doesn't think this is gonna be a good idea. But Peggy obviously wants to go there. So in between all of Peggy's ramblings about the future, Hank gets a word to tell her that they have a forensics team coming up in the morning to check out her car, and she says that they need permission. She's not gonna let them check out her car without her, advising them. So the cops already got it from Sonny. They're 2 steps ahead, and the mechanics she sold it to just for $700. He then asked her to tell him the real story. Yeah, that's the thing. That's not her car anymore. She just sold it. I was going to say, I mean, Peggy, you just sold your car. That's really not your concern anymore. So, obviously, things are definitely starting to unravel, and I definitely really like this here. And basically, Blue's trying to get the same thing out of Ed down the police station. He's just trying to get Ed to tell the truth. He seems to be sticking with his "you're all crazy" story, and he then starts by talking about Noreen's book, which is very interesting. He says, by which I guess I'm saying is no matter what they throw at me, I'm going to take care of what's mine. And Lou tries to convince Ed that the Gerhardts aren't going to rest until he's dead. Ed, I don't think understands how dangerous this whole situation is. I think he sort of understands it, but I think he doesn't really understand, that they're really digging themselves into this really bad hole, and he's kind of just done what Peggy's told him to because that's how much he loves her. And he said they aren't going to rest until he's dead, and possibly Peggy too. Ed asks for a lawyer, and he says if a lawyer tells him to talk, he will talk. So he wants a lawyer, and I think that's a good idea for Ed because obviously they're going after Ed, and in order for them to not go after Ed, they need a lawyer. Um, so yeah, they need a lawyer definitely, and I think it was very smart that Ed decided to do that. So Lou seems to know just the right lawyer, and that of course is Karl, which that was awesome that he picked Karl. Now we knew that Karl obviously has connections with Lou; they have a good bond, and we knew that Karl wasn't gonna let Ed off the hook. He was gonna get the truth out of him. He was gonna do whatever he could, and that was awesome. I love that. So Hank's trying to figure out why Peggy wouldn't stop after hitting Rye with her car. Obviously, he doesn't know why she wouldn't stop. And she doesn't really say or admit her guilt, but instead starts talking about how if she had to run, she wouldn't look back. And she talks about how Ed grew up in their current house in her collection of fashion magazines. And she's saying she's living in a museum of the past. And this is a really interesting scene. I mean, at this point, she's telling the truth. She's not lying about anything anymore. I think Peggy's realizing she just needs to tell the truth, and I think she kind of sees it as an opportunity to unravel. I mean, she clearly is going through a lot, and I really like the scene here. She's talking about how she had, if she had to run, she would run, and I thought that was really great stuff. And basically, you don't see that there's really not much guilt in there. She kind of just saw this as a way to take out her aggression because, she had so many things in the past. There's so many things she's obsessed with that just aren't going to happen. And this was kind of her way to take out her aggression, which is definitely very interesting. And I really like that. And Kirsten Dunst, especially in this scene, awesome as usual, but especially in this scene, amazing stuff. So just then, lights appear in the window. Hank goes to the front porch to find 3 Gerhardt vehicles, and he tells Peggy to hide and not come out no matter what she does. And Dodd has his cattle prod drawn and sparkling, asking for Ed. And we knew the scene was coming up because that awesome scene in the promo. And I was really hoping they would not kill off Hank. Luckily, they don't kill off Hank in this episode. So, as Hank explains that Ed was taken to the station, Hanzee goes around the side of the house with that familiar shotgun. Dodd says that Hank must think he's stupid, and Hank says that he could fill a steamer truck with the amount of stupid he thinks he is. I mean, that was awesome. He thinks he's stupid. I mean, Hank is just a badass. So Dodd and his men approach the house just as Hank is about to pull his gun. Hanzee knocks him out cold with the butt of his shotgun, and Dodd sends Hanzee off to the station, but stays behind with 2 other men to check out the house. The trio goes into the basement, which looks like a scene out of Hoarders, and you can see that Peggy's got this huge magazine collection. I mean, she clearly is obsessed with these magazines. and I feel like she's obsessed with him because that's what she wants to do in her life. She wants to be in fashion, and she clearly is never going to be able to because all these magazines are old, and she really, I think, dwells on the past. And honestly, I think some people are like that. Some people live in the past. Peggy clearly has lived in the past, and I think she's finally realizing that that all these things she wants, she can't have because they're not her life now. What she wants her life to be is never going to be her life, and I think she's really realizing that, and I love that here. So as the guys make their way around the ginormous stack of papers, a crash is heard. One guy starts wincing in pain, and Peggy knocks him out with a sink, and Dodd starts telling him to pipe down. And Peggy knocking him out with a sink. Peggy basically knocked this guy out with a sink. I mean, that was fucking awesome. So he gets startled by noise. He turns and shoots his other man dead, and now Dodd is left alone. So Peggy's a bit of a you see that Peggy's kind of on this psycho rampage, and Dodd continues to search and puts down the cattle prod, which Peggy scoops up and uses to shock him repeatedly. And we don't know if she's killed Dodd or not. If Dodd is dead, I can understand. I mean, I knew that Dodd was probably going to die eventually. I mean, he really had this rage in him, and you clearly don't mess with Peggy. I literally said after that, I'm like, don't mess with Peggy. I mean, she's a badass. That was awesome. I love that scene. So at the Gerhardt, Floyd feeds Otto as she asks Simone if she's with them because she doesn't really know who Simone is with. It seemed like Floyd had sympathy for Simone, and I like that she asked for them. The girl tries to reassure her grandma, but Floyd tells her that she needs to be a leader because she doesn't seem much like one. You know, she seems like she's very much a floater between alliances. Like she's either with Mike or she's with them. But then we have this really nice scene here, but then of course it's ruined when Mike and Gal Kitchen and the rest of the mafia are outside. And it's just a crazy scene. They want to go into the Gerhardt house. It's really, really crazy stuff. I mean, there were gunshots everywhere in this scene. It was an insane scene here. I mean, I was surprised by how crazy this was, but it was like insane. So obviously the deed that Simone wants could possibly be done now. I mean, Dodd could possibly be dead. So her asking Mike to go after Dodd is now pretty pointless because he could be dead for all we know. So at the police station, Karl stumbles in just as Lally sees rambling. He meets with Ed, but confuses him with his line of questioning. And as Karl goes to leave, he's greeted by Bear and several other members of the Gerhardt family, as well as their shotguns. However, Bear isn't looking for Ed. He just wants Charlie back. You know, that's what he wants. He wants to make sure that Charlie's okay. Well, until Lou blabs that Ed is on the premises. Obviously, he does want to go after Ed because Ed was the one that, put Charlie in harm, and he knows everything. He's about to take a shot at Ed's head from outside, and I honestly thought that Hanzee was going to kill Ed. I mean, you knew that Hanzee knows exactly what's going on. He's heard everything. He's pretty much seen everything, and I really feel like Hanzee's been with them from the beginning. Like, he has seen everything. So, a cop draws the shade, and Bear seems to be willing to let Ed go for now. He actually just wants Charlie, and Lou enlists Karl to take on Charlie's case to talk to Bear. However, this is just a distraction so he can get Ed safely out of the station. And, Bear just wants his son. That's all he wants. Obviously, this is Dodd's nephew, his son, and really great stuff. What I like about this, something I liked about, Bear in this episode is that Bear, like I said, wasn't just some guy eating meat. He actually had a lot of emotional scenes here. So Lou enlists Karl to take on Charlie's case and talk to Bear. However, this is just a distraction so he can get Ed safely out of the station because he does want to protect Ed. He doesn't want Ed to die, obviously. He doesn't really, trust Ed. He doesn't really have a lot of sympathy for him, but he doesn't want Ed to die. He just does, obviously, no cop wants to see someone dead if they didn't try to kill them. So Hank wakes up on the Blumquist porch with one heck of a headache and call on the radio. He needs a second to catch his breath, but he'll be the first back up to the station. And he tells them to have tell Lou to sit tight. And he says he can't have him getting killed. He says he can't have him getting killed without him. And he says he'll never hear the end of it at dinner. Now this is interesting that Hank says that he's saying, I can't let him get killed. Really crazy stuff. And I love the line where he's like, "I'll never hear the end of it at dinner." Yeah, that's all they'd be talking about. I mean, that's clearly all they'd be talking about. But I think it's a really powerful scene. I mean, you're seeing that Hank is basically willing to let himself die if Lou lives, and I think that's honestly where we're gonna go. I think Hank's gonna die. I mean, we have not seen Hank at all in season one, and Hank probably wouldn't be alive anyway. Like he's old here, so I don't think he'd be alive in season one. If anything, he'd probably be like just like very old, but we hadn't seen him. So I'm assuming that Hank is gonna probably sacrifice himself to save Lou. I really think that's where we're headed, and that's very interesting. Really dark stuff, but I could definitely see that happening. So, meanwhile, Bear and the boys are getting ready to storm the station. When Karl comes out, he says it's Charlie's lawyer. He needs to tell him that Bear is making it worse for Charlie, and it's just going to make things worse because, if he targets someone like Ed, it's just not a safe thing to do. If Ed lives, Peggy could go after Charlie, because at this point, it seems like Peggy is willing to go after anyone that puts her and her husband in Edge's way. And Karl convinces Bear and his boys to leave, and at this point, Lou and Ed are long gone, but Hanzee is right behind them. This was insane, and Hanzee tracks Ed and Lou through the woods, but not fast enough. Hank pulls up to find the two, and I honestly thought that one of them was going to die here. I thought that Hanzee was just going to start shooting, but he doesn't. Hank pulls up to find the two on the side of the road. Ed takes off on foot, but Lou gets in the car. Just as the two drive off, Hanzee comes out of the woods, heads into the direction of Ed's house, and he is right there. Like, he is directly right there. It seems like he is right close to what's going to happen, and this is going to be insane. I have no idea what's going to happen in the rest of this. I have no idea what's going to happen in the rest of this season, and I love that. I mean, it's so unpredictable, and there's so much going on, and I really do love that. Um, but let's talk about, and that's basically how the episode ends. We do get a bit of a post-credit scene, actually, which I kind of like. I mean, that's something we don't usually get. We see Karl and Sonny are at the VFU. They're at the VFU, which is interesting. We'll have to see what happens with that. But let's talk about this episode. Holy shit. I mean, there's really a lot to talk about here. So is Dodd dead? That's a big question. Is Dodd dead? Because if Dodd is dead, Simone's mission is pointless, obviously. She wants Mike to go after Dodd, but if he's dead, there's no point in going after him. So I don't know if she's going to find out that he's dead, what's going to happen there. A multitude of things could happen, but damn, I mean, really crazy stuff. I can totally understand if he is dead, but if he's not dead, I mean, this could get even worse for Ed. I mean, obviously, he was not stopped by Karl, so I'm assuming that Dodd is dead, but we don't know. That's something I like. They left it very ambiguous. Also, Floyd. We don't know if Floyd is alive because remember that whole big thing that happened with Mike in the kitchen? We don't know if Floyd is alive. I mean, we really don't know. And I don't think that they're both dead because I would not think the show would give them that kind of ending. It's just kind of weak. I don't think they do that to them, especially Floyd, who's one of the most essential parts of the show. I don't think they do that. But I like that they're keeping that mystery of, hey, they could be dead. It could honestly be true. Simone, I think, is probably dead. Simone, I think, died in that house, unfortunately. I hope she's not dead. I don't want her to see her dead, but she could be, definitely. Um, Definitely, she definitely could be dead. We'll have to see, though. Also, what's gonna end with Hank? Obviously, Hank, like I said, he will take the fall for Lou. If Lou is in danger, Hank will do whatever he can to protect him, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if that's gonna happen in this finale. I really feel like that's where we're headed. Like I said, we have 4 episodes left, and I really feel where we're headed is Lou's gonna try to protect, Hank's gonna try to protect Lou, and he's probably gonna end up getting himself killed. We'll have to see what happens with that, though. Karl being Ed's lawyer, how is this going to work out for Ed? I mean, Ed is going to be forced to confess eventually. He's still not telling the truth. And Lou, I like that Lou wants to help him because all Lou wants is the truth. If he tells him the truth, I think Lou will be fine with him. He will be like, okay, I understand what's going on. Because let's face it, Ed didn't really do anything wrong. The only reason he lashed out last week is because he had no other way to get out of there. He knew if he would not get out of there, he was going to die. So that's one reason. Two, he just watched his entire dream burn down. All of that is gone. Everything he's worked for his entire life is gone. So there's that. And I really feel that he can get Lou to sympathize with him very well. I think definitely he can tell a very good sob story. Peggy. I loved Peggy in this episode, I have to say, because it really seems like Peggy is obsessed with these magazines. She wants to be this model. She wants to be in these fashion magazines, but they're old. She lives in the past, and I think she's really realizing that she can't have that life, unfortunately. What's going to happen with Charlie? Obviously, Bear's concerned about Charlie. Is he ever going to see Charlie again? I'm worried the Bear's going to get killed before he meets up with Charlie. Charlie, at this point, I feel like it's going to be one of the only Gerhardts left at this point. I mean, if Dodd really is dead, that could be true. And is Charlie going to live? I don't know. We'll have to see. But the way we're headed, it really seems like that's what's going on here. And that's going to be very interesting to see what they do with that. I'm definitely interested in seeing what's going to happen there. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the episode, guys. I have to say, a really amazing episode, definitely. Again, some really crazy scenes in this episode. Not as crazy as last. I would say it's just as crazy as last week. Peggy's car. They're definitely gonna find out what's going on with Peggy's car. This is not gonna be good for anyone. I'm surprised that Hank didn't go back to check on Peggy, but I feel like he kind of understands what she's doing, and he kind of understands why she did what she did. Obviously, we'll have to see what happens with that, but that definitely is going to be very interesting. We have 4 episodes left, unfortunately. Also, Betsy. Do you think Betsy is going to try to fight? I kind of feel like we're getting to that point where Betsy is going to kind of try to get in there and fight, which is obviously not a good idea, but we'll have to see what happens there. And also, we don't know what happened with the Kitchen Brothers and the Gerhardts. I mean, what was the outcome of that whole kitchen fight that they were in? What was the outcome of that? We don't know yet. And I like that. I like that we don't really know what's going on there. And I like there are more Kitchen Brothers. It seemed like Mike was the only one left, but no, he's assembled more team members and he's not going to go down without a fight, which I love. One of the things I love about the show is that when it seems like things are over, they're not even close to over. And that really is a great example of that. It seemed like that storyline was kind of over. The Kitchen Brothers was done. But no, it's not over. There's still a threat out there. Obviously, the war is still going on, and I love that. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Also, what story did Noreen tell? We don't know what story she told. I know it's not kind of important, but I feel like it is because obviously, did she tell Ed's story or did she tell the truth? I mean, we don't know. Obviously, Lou was mad at Ed, but I feel like at some point we need to find out what Noreen said. If she went with the truth or if she went with Ed's sob story. We'll have to see. But that's it for my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Overall, guys, amazing, amazing episode. Just, they're really killing it, I have to say. Every single week, they're killing it. The effects in this episode as well were just amazing. They really look like something fantastic. I loved the effects in this episode. One of the best things about the episode by far were the effects. I was very impressed by them. But that is my review. Hope you enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for Homeland, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.